Papa Gamer.
Hello, listener. I'm Papa Ron.
And I'm Mama Lia.
We welcome you to Deep Dive Podcasts, podcasts that will talk about regular subject but try to take a deep dive perspective for it. Let's start the podcast. Hi, listener. Today we will be discussing about an anime called Sword Art Online Alternative, Gun Gale Online. We will discuss what we watched from episode 1 of the series. It's a spin-off anime from Sword Art Online series, which focus more on the fictional games called Gun Gale Online.
Okay, so Gun Gale Online, GGO. This isn't just another VR game, is it? I mean, just the setting alone. It's like they took everything desolate and unforgiving and said, let's have a firefight here. And you know what? It works. It really, really works. But more on that later. We're diving into the first episode of Sword Art Online Alternative, Gun Gale Online. And let me tell you, by the time I finished it, I had a ton of questions.
Yes, it definitely throws you right into the action, doesn't it? No time for hand-holding, just straight into this brutal yet strangely compelling world.
Exactly. And that's what we're here to unpack. What makes GGO tick? Why is it so popular? Is it more than just a game? Because I have a sneaking suspicion it might be, and I'm betting you do too.
Well, that's the beauty of good science fiction, isn't it? It takes something familiar, like a game, and twists it. Makes you question the very nature of reality.
Right. So, picture this. Scorched earth, ruined cities, wind howling through canyons of concrete. That's GGO. It's bleak, it's unforgiving, and somehow it's captivating.
It's almost like tapping into this primal instinct, this fascination with survival against all odds. It's a theme we see throughout history, throughout storytelling.
Yeah.
GGO, even if it's virtual, offers a taste of that, a chance to test those limits.
And I think that's a huge part of its appeal. We're
Okay.
talking battle royales, tactical shooting, squads duking it out in this wasteland arena. It's high stakes, it's intense, and it clearly resonates with a lot of players.
Yes, the popularity of battle royale games in general points to that desire for a certain kind of challenge. And Geo takes it to the extreme. But then the anime introduces us to these characters, like our pink-clad protagonist LNN. And you can't help but wonder, what brings someone like that to a world like GGO? There's this fascinating contrast between the setting and the characters themselves.
Right. It's this weird juxtaposition, this desolate world, and then, well, a pink bunny suit, and somehow it works. But it really makes you think about those motivations, right? What are people seeking in a world like GGO?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Escape, community, or something more. The show definitely hints at a deeper layer to all of this, like GGO attracts people for reasons beyond just blowing off steam. Like there's something else there, something they might not even find in reality.
And Ellen, let's talk about Ellen. Pink bunny suit in a wasteland, right? It's like, what is this? But then you see her in action.
Deceptive, isn't she? You'd think, in a world like GGO, bigger is always better. But she proves that speed and agility, that's a whole different kind of weapon.
For sure. Remember that scene in the squad jam where she's pinned down? And I'm thinking, okay, she's done for. But then she just disappears, slips right through this tiny gap because she's so small. It's mind-blowing.
It's that element of surprise,
Yeah.
right? No one expects it. And it makes you think, even outside of the game, how often do we underestimate those who don't fit the mold? Ellen's a prime example of how sometimes thinking differently, that's the real advantage.
It's like David and Goliath, but in this hyper-realistic VR world. And she's got skills, too. She teams up with M, right? And suddenly, it's like they're unstoppable.
LNM. Perfect example of how teamwork, even in this super competitive environment, it makes a huge difference. They complement each other, each one bringing something unique to the table.
It's like, she's got the speed, he's got the strategy,
Yeah.
and they know how to use that. You see it in the way they communicate, how they anticipate each other's moves. It's more than just playing the game at that point. It's like they're in sync.
Exactly. They've tapped into something deeper. And that's what's so fascinating about GGO. It's not just about pulling the trigger faster. It's about strategy, adaptation, pushing yourself beyond what you thought was possible. And then we meet that other team, and things get really interesting.
This other team, though, it's like they're not even playing the same game. Every move, every shot, it's just too perfect.
It's the precision, right? Like they're operating on a whole other level of awareness. And it's not just instinct either. The episode makes it pretty clear that this team has real-world tactical training.
Yeah, remember that rappelling scene? I mean, come on, that's straight out of a military manual, not some gamer guide. It made me wonder, what if GGO isn't just a game for everyone? What if it's being used as a training simulator for, well, the real deal?
It's a question worth considering. I mean, we're already seeing virtual reality being used for training in all sorts of fields, from pilots to surgeons. So why not military or law enforcement? Right. It makes sense.
But then that brings up a whole other set of questions, doesn't it? Like, where do we draw the line between the virtual and the real? If someone's practicing combat tactics in a game, even if it's just training, does that change how they react in a real life situation?
Exactly. It's like that age-old question, but with technology thrown into the mix. Does exposure to violence, even in a virtual setting, desensitize us? Do we lose something in translation when we move from the virtual to the real? These are questions philosophers have been grappling with for centuries, and now they're more relevant than ever.
It's almost like GGO is holding up a mirror to us, isn't it? We're drawn to this world of virtual conflict, but the closer it gets to reality, the more we have to confront those uncomfortable questions about our own relationship with violence, with technology, with the very nature of what's real. So we started this deep dive with a seemingly simple question: what is GGO? But as we've dug deeper, we've uncovered layers of complexity hinting at a future where the lines between games and reality are becoming increasingly blurred. We've seen how Jijo might be more than just a game, maybe even a training ground for something far more serious. But more importantly, it's made us think about the impact of technology on our lives, on our perceptions, on our very humanity. What resonated most with you? What questions does GGO raise for you about the future of gaming, technology, and the blurring lines between the virtual and the real? Keep exploring, keep questioning, and we'll see you in the next deep dive.
Papa